Hey singers.
It's probably beneficial to remove gender from thinking about voice because that benefits everyone.
Someone will come into the studio and I'll be like, okay, male, female, there's starting notes here. When actually that really just made me look at the person as like a voice first.
Singing and focusing on the breath has been a huge part of me being able to regulate into my body.
Ba-dum-bum. Hey singers, got a beautiful little chat coming up, and one of my students and friend, Charlie, new friend Charlie, has graciously come to share their story with all of you and me. So Charlie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name's Charlie. I am trans non-binary. I'm a 30-year-old here in Gimway. Yeah.
Nice. That's great. So what led up to you wanting to get singing lessons?
I guess it's a bit of a long ride, but I'll give you the short of it.
Okay.
Last year I had a bit of a mental health breakdown, or crisis you could say, after about 12 months of looking and trying to find mental health support that was both accessible and also competent in, trans care, which just didn't really exist up here in the far north. So after 12 months of just getting nowhere with my referrals, not getting called back by places that I was applying for, I got to a point where I couldn't see hope anymore. Like, I didn't have the support I needed, and so I tried to go to emergency care and they turned me away, tried to call the crisis line and they turned me away, and it became very apparent that it was myself and my partner that were going to be the only people to pull myself out. And so it was a bit messy, but we did it, and through that, I found a lot of tools and resources and ways to take care of myself outside of the systems. I put a lot of focus and care into how to better help myself outside of the systems and how to better support community as well. And one thing that I guess, part of the reason I was looking for support for so long was because I just realised I wasn't a woman. I was trying to figure out how to approach that. I just needed the extra support with what was going on in my head, really. That was a fuck ton. And it wasn't there, and so I went, right, how else can I help myself and support myself through these big, huge life changes and emotions. And one thing when I was a kid, when I used to say I wanted to be a boy, was that, oh, you're just a tomboy, like that's not real, that doesn't exist, like you're a girl, like And another thing I used to be told was that I can't sing, and I went, fuck that. Neither of those things are true. So, if I can transition, then maybe I can sing as well. And so it took me a while to get to the singing lessons, but I've been talking about it a lot with my friends, and it was my 30th last year, and so I just asked them, if you're gonna get me anything, can you contribute to me getting singing lessons? And my friends bought me lessons, and I found you, and I've been here ever since, and it's been so instrumental to be able to reconnect back to my body in this new self, and not this new self, but coming back to myself that I knew when I was a little kid, Like, it's been a huge puzzle piece in that body-mind connection for me, so yeah, thanks for having me always, Sissy.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, and I'm so grateful that you found me.
Yeah, me too.
And what do you mean by like connected to your body, like with the singing? Like how did that help with that?
Well, and I don't think I expected this, but singing's a big part of it's breath, right? Like most of it is breath, really, and then like internally what you've got going on there, but I don't think I've ever known how to connect to my body. Like, I just haven't, and maybe I did when I was younger, but like for a majority of my life I've just been completely disconnected. I haven't been known when I feel sick or when I feel pain or maybe when I'm out of breath until it's way too late, because I'm just that disconnected. Whereas singing I've never gotten meditation, but singing and focusing on the breath and focusing on what your body's doing and focusing on where you're holding it, what your mouth's doing, what your throat's doing, what your chest is doing, has been a huge part of me being able to regulate into my body. I didn't expect that, but I definitely benefited from it. Because everyone tells you to do the breathing techniques, right? When you're a bit stressed out, if you go to any sort of mental health care, it's like, oh, you tried breathing? And I'm like, I fucking tried breathing. I breathe every day. Have you tried singing? Because that's a game changer. It's so much more fun. My brain doesn't get distracted because it's focused on some lyrics and some tune. Like, it's, I think, an alternative to breathing. And I think when you look back into Indigenous communities, singing is such a huge part of culture, of coming together, of being together, and I think it is a sort of meditative state to be able to, to be able to sing, to be able to ground into it, and if you let it, if you want it to be anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and I think that's actually pretty common with people in general, is that we don't really pay attention to our body, and it's like, and it's giving us messages all the time, and it has to be like a real conscious effort to pay attention to what's going on, which is one of the most common things that I come up with students that I'm telling them, like, I'll be like, did you notice any difference? They'll be like, I don't know, I was just, I'm like, it has to be a decision to pay attention to what's going on while you're doing certain exercises or whatever it might be.
And then I think that's like the hardest part of singing is that you actually do need to pay attention to what your body's doing. And I think that disconnect. And as well, if you've never tried to tune in, or maybe not never, but if you don't tend to try to tune into what your body's doing, that's such a vulnerable thing. And so I think that's where the block comes for people, is because it's not just singing, it's that vulnerability of actually tuning back into your body and trying to work with it again. And like, singing's so much more than just singing. I didn't quite realise how much more it was until I started lessons.
And I think facing the vulnerabilities that you mentioned is also where power comes from. So not only, it is interesting, the process of, I guess, being really proficient at voice is, it just crosses over into like your whole soul, because that's what voice is, really. It's just an offering of your soul. And so with your voice, I was really interested because I had never had a trans student before, and I was interested in your range at first. That was what kind of started this whole thing. Was I thought, you can sing a lot lower than sort of a typical male, is what I was thinking at the time, and then as high as a soprano, which is typically a female voice. And so because of that, I was quite interested in that, so I wanted to do a post about that and just sort of talk about that a little bit. And then before I did it, I wanted to send you the caption just to check the language and everything. And what I wanted to explain was that difference where in the range, for example. So I'll go back to this later, but music is really gendered. So in my head at the time, what I wanted to try and explain was that Charlie's range was actually, I just said it, lower than a typical male, and then as high as like a typical female. So then that's kind of how I had explained it in the caption when I sent it to Charlie. And then can you tell us, I don't know what happened when I sent you the caption?
So I guess, and I did, when I sent it, I was like, is this a bit too much? Have I gone a bit too hard with the language? And is it a bit too far? And is Sissy going to tune out? But I was really grateful that you didn't. I guess I went to the full extent and went, this is what I think and I believe, and then it opened up a conversation between us of what is voice, what is gender, and how does that tie in together, and is it and I guess I just sort of put to the table, like, it's probably beneficial to remove gender from thinking about voice, because that benefits everyone. But yeah, within the caption, I think I just removed all the gendered language, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
And then sort of just put it forward in a way of, thinking about the voice before the gender, or the person in front of you.
Yeah, and so Charlie had sort of, taken out all the gender, reworded it, sent it back. And when I read it, I thought, that doesn't explain, it sounded just really ambiguous and a bit vague to me, and I was like, I can't explain range without talking about male and female voices. And so, but I wanted to understand it more, and I felt your responsibility to your community as well. So it was a whole thing that I didn't know about, I didn't understand at all. Like, I don't understand the feeling of, like, say, like, gender dysphoria or just being uncomfortable in your body, all those kinds of things. Like, it was all, that's not something that I experience and understand on a personal level, but I wanted at least to, like, understand what it was for you. Mm-hmm. And then as a, because our relationship was like singing teacher student, like, I needed to understand what was best for my student as well. And anyway, so what it led to though was, I thought I need to really understand this better. So I went out there and started researching all the things I could find on trans voices, and there's not heaps, but enough to, like, I think help me get a bit better understanding. So one of the things that which is what I mentioned earlier, one of the things that really, like, impacted me, that I learned about it, was that music is really gendered. And it never occurred to me, because there is, like, certain vocal tendencies depending on your sex. Can I say your biological sex? You're more likely to have a certain range and be comfortable singing in certain notes, depending on how much testosterone or estrogen that you have. And because of that, I just really kind of accepted how gendered music is. But when one of this singing teacher in the UK, well, actually, he's a vocal coach. Doesn't matter. The difference doesn't matter. But there is a difference, but it doesn't matter.
It's not today's journey.
That's another story for another day, maybe. But anyway, he works a lot with trans their students, like school students, his singing students as well. And one thing that he spoke about for his own experience was that he actually really likes singing soprano, and that's where his voice is comfortable. And so, he had to get special permission in his, like, end of year high school piece.
Wow,
to be able to sing a soprano song. And that resonated with me, because I am typically in the lower female range, and prefer singing quite more sort of like a tenor mezzo type area. And it really opened my eyes, because I thought, well, this whole time I've been thinking someone will come into the studio and I'll be like, okay, male, female, they're starting notes here, when actually that really just made me look at the person as, like, a voice first, and see where their voice is at and what their voice is doing. Because, like, we talked about this a bit earlier before the camera, and like you had said that two people of the same sex can be standing next to each other and could have a completely different hormonal level and sound different because of that.
Like, I guess a good description we thought about before was that two women standing next to each other are going to have completely different experiences of menstruation. I started taking tea and I've forgotten the word.
doesn't exist
menstrual
anymore.
cycle.
Must
Yeah,
be nice.
like you're gonna have different experiences of PMS if you experience it at all. Different experiences with pain. You know, and I think we see that you could look at your friendship group and note that everybody has experienced that differently. Everyone's experienced puberty differently. Like everyone has different experiences of acne as they're growing up, if they have it at all, and that all comes back down to the hormones within your body are different from the person standing next to you, and there is more of a variation than the binary will let you believe. And so, yeah, to look at the voice first is really important and quite powerful, and thank you for myself.
Yeah, so when going back to the message, after I'd sort of done this learning, actually I found another singing teacher who wrote a book about it, which I've not read, but I'm going to. But yeah, a lot of the things that she said around it as well, just helped me open my mind and understanding and that kind of thing around the whole thing as well, which has benefited me overall as a singing teacher, which was just a bonus. But when I sent it back to Charlie, and I said, can we just talk about this a bit more? And to be honest, I was a little bit nervous. Yeah, because I just didn't want you to think I was just dismissing your approach or your wording, and I didn't want you to think I had been like intending to be respectful, but then what you said came back as what you thought was respectful. I was actually like, well, no.
Yeah.
That, you know?
I didn't think that at all. And I think I knew the message I was sending back probably needed clarification. I didn't. I think I expected a level of, wait, hold on, I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
And I was just really grateful. It was a bit of a gamble to go that hard, I guess. And people will either be curious and inquisitive and ask questions, which you did, which I was so grateful for, or they'll go, oh, just don't worry about it, shut down. And so, yeah, I was really, really happy and really grateful that you did want to clarify and ask more questions. And I know that is really nerve-wracking as well. And I think in my own experiences in other ways, like, to ask for clarification around something that you don't know that is so personal to someone can be really scary because you don't want to offend or upset that person. But I really value curiosity and question time. So
question time. I love that. Yeah. And so do I. And I think that worked because we both seem to be of that like mind. Yeah, so I did that's one of the reasons I just really appreciate you being so open and at this point where you can just comfortably answer questions and talk about it and just stand strong in your truth.
Well, being able to come here and learning how to sing has been a big part of that confidence. Like, I don't think before this year I could have done that. And like,
wow.
Yeah, singing lessons have been a huge part in building that confidence. So yeah.
Amazing.
Thanks.
Thank you. So we actually did an episode of this before, and I already thought after we did it, there's some things I think I should have elaborated on and got you to say more about, etc., etc. And then when I saw you, we were at a vigil for something else, and when I saw you with it wasn't even I couldn't even say it's like your community, but it was just like some people of that seemed like your people, of just as in, I'm not talking about like trans people or like people from Victoria. I'm not talking about
bloody Victoria.
I just mean like your community. You know what I mean? Like your mob.
Yeah.
And something just sort of clicked with me where I was like, I realized, this actually means a lot more than I thought it did. Which is the reason I thought I think we do need to redo this whole thing and like have a better conversation about it.
No, I really appreciate that, and something you said earlier that nearly made me tear up while you were talking, but I got distracted and forgot about it, was you were saying that it wasn't just about me, it was about my community, and like, I'm going to do it again, but I wouldn't do this for myself. Like, I'm good. I do this because I didn't know I existed when I was a kid. I didn't know trans men, trans non-binary people existed until I was in my 20s. And particularly like born female to them transition, I didn't know existed, and that's crazy.
Right.
That's fucking insane. I knew the concept of a tomboy or you know, a butch dyke, but I didn't know I didn't need to be a woman, and I can't stand the thought of, in this day and age, anybody thinking like that. And with what's going on with trans healthcare in Queensland particularly, and very locally here, it was because of the Cansexual Health Clinic being targeted as the issue. The young community here deserve to have people being loud and noisy and just talking and having the conversations and not leaving it to them to feel alone and by themselves. Yeah.
And seen.
Yeah, and seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Good on you. That's massive. I'm really grateful to, just do this.
Yeah.
One small little thing.
Yeah.
For humanity. It's just about, treating people like fellow humans. And,
exactly.
It doesn't really matter what your personal beliefs are or whatever might come into it.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, unless you have some personality disorder, you want other people to feel loved and included and validated. So,
exactly.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say, like about singing or about anything else?
I've gone blank now. You put me on the spot.
I know. No, it's fine. If not, I just wanted to give you that opportunity before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
And before you do, I'll just say, just for me, like, it's forever changed my approach to how I teach now. So, like, it's had a big impact on me as well. And I just think that's part of the reasons that I really wanted to just share this story of our learning together, because it's always beneficial. Like, you're never going to be like, oh, I wish I didn't learn that thing.
We shouldn't ask that question. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really grateful. And I guess this is how I try and move through the world, is to be a bit curious. And I'm really grateful that you were curious with me and wanted to know and wanted to learn, and that we can sit here and talk about it now. And I'm so grateful. And I guess to round it all off, just want to say how powerful it is to stand in your true, authentic self, and despite everything that's going on, despite what political climates you might be watching on, like, it is important to be who you are and to not let other people's fears stop that. And I know that can be really scary and hard at times, but yeah, for any trans youth out there watching this, you are amazing for being who you are, and don't let anybody else tell you any different.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming again.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for teaching me to sing. Yeah, it's been
You're
huge.
welcome. Yes, always. My favourite thing to do. Yeah, it's been so good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for coming this far.